Hello, welcome back to Emperor's Path. My name is SPJ and welcome back to episode 3 of my OO9 build. As you can see behind me, I've been doing the plaster bandage and general sculpting of the mountainous areas on my layout. Let's go and have a look and see what I've been up to. There's a lot of plaster bandage in this. Hello, there's a little bit of time traveling here, so apologies. This is me having finished plaster bandaging the whole part of this layout. So there's a few things I just want to quickly talk about before I begin. I purchased some of the Hobbycraft own brand plaster bandage for this, which is £2 a roll. In the end, I purchased 5 packs of it, so it's £10. I'm going to say that the quality of the Hobbycraft own brand plaster bandage is not great. I probably used double what I needed to because the quality of the actual plaster versus bandage wasn't good enough. I've used some of the specific hobby-based ones that you get at shows and things like before, and that's worked fantastically in comparison to this. So, would I pay the £10 for the roll that is I think it's a Woodland Scenics roll of plaster bandage cloth that you can get in Hobbycraft? No. Would I buy the Hobbycraft own brand stuff again? No. If you can pick this up at a show, there's a brand where it's in a white packet with sort of like a green label on it, and I think it's Green Scenes. I can't remember off the top of my head. If you see it at a show, pick it up because that is the best stuff I've used thus far. Now the £10 has covered this. I think I've got one roll left, but the £10 worth of plaster bandage has covered this area. And you don't necessarily see it in the video clips coming up, but I would always say the first bit of plaster bandage that you put on that's connecting to your polystyrene, whatever it is that you're putting plaster bandage on top of, it always feels like it's not going to work. It does trust the process. Effectively, that first layer that you put down is going to look bad. It's not going to feel as good as it should do, or even you're going to try sort of smoothing the plaster bandage and it just won't work. Trust the process. You always need to do at least a second, maybe a third layer on top of it anyway. But the second and third layer will solidify the one that you're putting on top of there. So take that into consideration. That is the best bit of advice I can give you. So we're going to go back in time and I'm going to show you me doing a little bit of this, and then we're going to fast forward in time to when this is all done. So there we are. You've seen me do the plaster bandage. I haven't filmed the entire thing because it would just be the same thing over and over again. It's a big layer. Little bits of advice: always make sure that you have some additional water separate, or you have water left over when you're doing the plaster bandage. The method I use is I cut strips to the sizes that I need. If you can cut everything all before you begin, that saves you a lot of time and hassle. It means that you don't have to stop halfway through with plaster, liquidy plaster covered hands trying to then cut more strips of plaster bandage. Cut it all up, put it to the side, and then when you start putting the plaster bandage on, you want to dip it into a bowl of water to let the plaster melt. That's not the right term, but effectively so it becomes malleable, and then lay it on where you need to and just smooth it with your fingers. I've seen some people who have put the plaster bandage on just as it is wet, and that seems to work fine. Anytime I've tried doing it, it doesn't work like that. So you want to smooth the plaster bandage out, and what that does is it then helps the plaster go into the gaps that it needs to form that rock hard bit like that. Then you start working on the areas, and then effectively you want to go over with a second and maybe a third layer on top of that. Don't cut giant pieces of plaster bandage because something will go wrong, or you'll find that you're wasting bits and things like that. That's the best bit of advice. I think that a plaster bandage strip about this big, which with no size reference doesn't actually help anyone. I'd say no longer than 30 centimeters. I'd say 20 centimeters is probably perfect. And then width-wise, you do what you want. You do what suits you. But this is, I'm really happy with how it's come out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to be going on to adding Sculptamold. So now going to go to another time lapse where I'm going to be putting Sculptamold on here, and let's see how far my bag of Sculptamold gets me. Okay, so you'll have seen from the time lapse that I've been working on this. Now, I use this Geeks Gaming Scenic stuff on the bridge section, which sits below here. It was the initial stuff I used to shape this. So if you haven't seen, this is my normal 00 gauge layout. And it was absolutely fine. I don't know if I've got a bad batch or whether I was lucky on the first one. I'm not happy with this one. It's very... I know that with a lot of... modelling compound, it's usually heavy on the effectively egg box carton type stuff, and this one's really newspaper heavy, and it's not doing what I want it to. I mean, I'm going to use what I've got left, but because I'm trying to sort it, but I can't do that. But anyway, I've managed to cover quite a large section of it. Hopefully it dries better than it looks at the moment. I've got this section. Now, this is a removable section that I've put in to allow me to get access to the track in the tunnel. So I'm going to take this off and start just sort of filling in the little bits along the edges so I can do those. And then I'll probably move down to this little section here. But you don't need to see me do extra of that because it's going to be exactly the same as I've been doing. But I'll come back to you at the end when it's all done. So there we are. That is the Sculptamold terraforming done on this section of the layout. You could probably see the colour difference. I hope you can anyway in the video. This is looking a lot whiter than this one. So this stuff does dry quite white when it's done. So I think in a previous clip I did say that it looked a lot more grey, a lot more newspaper used in it, but eventually it does dry white. So to do this whole layout, it took me 2 bags. So that's 2 kilos of Sculptamold to do this, but that's because especially on this upper part was quite heavy to take away those steps that were left via the polystyrene. This section is nowhere near dry yet. I'm going to get a hairdryer up here to try and dry it a little bit quicker, but it looks good, and this bit can come out, so comes out like that, and it allows me to be able to get in there, clean the track underneath, and if a loco does stall, I've got the accessibility to get to it if I need to. And it does go in quite nice and tight, and then I'll sort of try and hide those gaps later down the line with trees and foliage and stuff like that. I'm really happy with it. This is, I guess you never really pick up a piece that's covered in Sculptamold, but this is so heavy, this bit. I think it's just so dense with Sculptamold on it that it's just... yeah, so this needs to dry, but there we are. Let's go back to myself and we'll talk about it next episode. And there we have it. We've got this covered. It is done. So this has been drying for about a week, and this section here is dry. However, this top section is probably less than a week, but it's still drying. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking off the back scene areas to try and let it get to all sides of it and dry, and eventually I'll probably get the hairdryer on it just to, if you leave it too long and it hasn't dried, it does start to grow stuff, so just be careful on that, especially doing this in winter time like me, like some real idiot. But yeah, that's done. So next week we're going to be moving on to the bit that's been bugging me that I haven't done is this little bridge section here. So next week we're going to be building the bridge, and we're probably going to start painting this so long as it's all dry, just to make it look more like a layout and less like a big pile of ready brick, because that's what it currently looks like. So thank you very, very much for watching. If you don't already, go and listen to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, which is a podcast about model railways that I do with my friend James from the Western Signalman. Other than that, I do have some shows coming up in the near future. I think by the time this comes out, I will be at the Southampton Model Railway exhibition at Barton Peveril College. That's on the 25th and 26th of January. If you're watching this in the future, I'm sorry you've missed it. Go check out my Instagram to see what dates I've got upcoming, and I might be at a show near you. So thank you very, very much for watching. If you haven't already, please click the like, comment and subscribe button and do all of those things. If not for the YouTube algorithm, then mainly for my own ego. YouTube's now going to suggest something that it thinks you might like. Have a wonderful day. Bye.